My son was sent home for plagiarizing his essay, but the words the teacher flagged were the ones about his dad's deployment. When I got the call from the school, I was in the middle of folding his dad's uniform shirts that had been sitting in the closet for 2 months. His English teacher said Ethan had submitted an essay about military families that contained passages that were too sophisticated for a 10-year-old. She wanted to meet with me immediately. I drove to school, still smelling like fabric softener and coffee, confused as hell. Ethan was sitting outside the principal's office looking like he'd been crying. When I asked what happened, he just shrugged and said the teacher didn't believe his story was real. Mrs. Walson pulled out his essay and pointed to specific sentences she'd highlighted in red. A 10-year-old doesn't write "the weight of waiting for someone who might not come home," or "deployment creates a hole in your daily routine that you don't realize exists until it's there. This is clearly copied from somewhere." I stared at the paper. Those words sounded exactly like something Ethan would say. He'd been talking like this since his dad left for Afghanistan 6 months ago. He'd ask me things like, "Do you think Dad misses our Tuesday pizza nights?" Or tell me he could feel the empty space at the dinner table. "Where do you think he copied this from?" I asked. Mrs. Walson pulled out her laptop and showed me she'd run portions of his essay through some plagiarism checker. Nothing came up, but she was convinced the language was too mature. Children his age don't have this emotional vocabulary. He must have paraphrased from military family blogs or books. That's when I lost it. Not yelling, just cold anger. His dad has been deployed for 6 months. Ethan video calls him every night at 8 p.m. sharp. He sleeps with one of his dad's old t-shirts. Last week he asked me if it was normal to feel scared and proud at the same time. You think a 10-year-old can't understand deployment because you've never lived it. Mrs. Walson's face started to change, but I wasn't done. He knows words like deployment, convoy, and IED because they're part of our daily vocabulary now. He understands waiting because that's what military kids do. They wait for phone calls, for emails, for their parent to come home safely. I pulled out my phone and showed her the text thread between me and Tom. Here's his dad asking about Ethan's soccer game from 7,000 miles away. Here's Ethan asking me how to spell reconnaissance because his dad mentioned it during their call. This is his life. The principal, who had been quietly listening, finally spoke up. "Mrs. Walson, maybe we should reconsider this situation." But I was on a roll. "You want proof this isn't plagiarized? Call his dad. It's 2 a.m. where he's stationed, but Tom would answer if it's about Ethan." I started dialing. "Hey, this is about our son's homework." Tom answered on the second ring, voice groggy but instantly alert when I explained what was happening. I put him on speaker. "Ethan's been asking me about deployment stuff for weeks. Last Sunday he wanted to know what I missed most about home besides you two. I told him it was the little routines, like making pancakes on Saturday mornings. That's probably where he got that line about routines." Mrs. Walson looked uncomfortable. Tom continued. "Ethan processes things by writing. He's been sending me letters about how deployment feels from his perspective. Kids got away with words when something matters to him." After I hung up, the room was quiet. Finally, Mrs. Walson said, "I may have made an error in judgment." "You think?" I grabbed Ethan's essay and backpack. "Come on, buddy, we're going home." As we walked to the car, Ethan asked, "Am I in trouble?" "Not with me. Your teacher learned something today about military families." The next morning, Mrs. Walson called to apologize and asked if Ethan would be willing to share his essay with the class during their unit on family diversity. He agreed, and when he read it aloud, half the class was crying, including Mrs. Walson. But the best part came that afternoon when Tom called during his usual time. "I heard you stood up for my boy today." "Always will," I said, watching Ethan practice soccer in the backyard, wearing his dad's old army t-shirt. "That's my girl. Tell Ethan I'm proud of his writing. And tell him his old man can't wait to read more stories when I get home." That night, Ethan started working on his next essay about the things military kids are proud of. Mrs. Walson never questioned his vocabulary again.